Hey guys, Sabri Subi here and welcome to week 1, module 1 of Quantum Growth. And let me just say that I am so thrilled and excited to have you here with me and really just to be helping you explode your business just to beyond recognizable heights. And as you can tell from the name of this program, Quantum Growth, this training isn't here to just help you grow in, a linear fashion or just marginally. No. I am here to really help you make a quantum leap in growth for your business. And this is something that I have certainly experienced in my own business. In helping me go from just being a one-man army in my bedroom, making cold calls to now, employing 70 plus people and having an 8-figure business by using the same strategies that I'm going to be outlining to you over the course of this program. But what's really more exciting is that once I deployed it in my own business, just to explode it, I have gone out and deployed this in over 416 different industries and niches, for hundreds and hundreds of clients, and it's responsible for generating over $1.33 billion in sales. And this is just every type of business that you could imagine that's selling a service for a fee. And just to, no matter what part of the world that you're in, at what price point are you selling, this system just simply works. And I have really just spent so much time obsessing over all of the mechanics and kind of reverse engineering why it works so well and why it is so brutally effective, and looking at those guiding principles, and then have really just synthesized that down into this program and giving you all of the tools that you can go out there and just apply this for your business, in your industry, in your niche that you operate in, and just experience just absolute rapid growth, right? The things that I've seen this thing do for businesses is just incredibly profound in such a short amount of time. So without further ado, let's get stuck into it. Now, what we're really seeing right now is that the tectonic plates of business are shifting, right? Technology is eating the world. It doesn't matter what sector of business that you're in, what country of the world that you're in, technology is just eating up the world. And it is just, really eating traditional business models and crunching them out and just spitting them out. And there is no area of business that is not being disrupted by technology. And really what you're seeing is that, even for businesses that sell things predominantly offline, right? You might be, you're operating your service business and you think, well, I deliver my goods and services offline typically, right? And so I'm kind of sheltered from this. No, you are not, right? And because the way that people are buying has fundamentally changed, and it is changing. And, people's expectations of how to research, products and services is changing. And then the way that those products and services are delivered to the end user are also radically changing. And, we're living in a day and age where if you don't adapt, you're just going to be absolutely eaten alive and your business is not going to exist. And we're already seeing that in just huge multi-billion-dollar businesses that you think kind of have moats around them and are sheltered from the disruption that's taking place. And, what I'm going to be showing to you is that that's actually not the case, and that there is a changing of the guard, right? There is shifting of those tectonic plates in which your business is built on, and there's really, now is the time to adopt or change, or you will simply be eradicated, right? Before we get stuck into all of the different weeds and get carried away, let me just go over what we'll be covering in today's video. So we're going to be really going through the online convergence of business and what's happening with all these people migrating online. We're going to be covering the shifting of the business tectonic plates, the rising of the red tide of competition, and really the new age of quantum growth. Now, why is this important, right? And why is it important now? Right? And as I mentioned, that the world is changing and consumers are changing, and therefore business is changing. And unless you evolve, with this new digital economy, your business will be wiped out and you will be eradicated off the face of the earth. And that's definitely what we are seeing across all sectors, across all industries and niches, regardless of what it is that you sell, to whom you sell it, and at what price point you sell it, right? And what we are seeing is that there's this huge convergence online, right? And everybody is flooding online. And even if you sell a product that is not bought online, that does not matter. We're talking about the online convergence for attention, right? Where is it heading? What is going on? And this is what's happening, right? So the average daily of minutes of consumption per person, looking at this is essentially what television consumption looks like in the States, right? And that's that yellow line that you can see tracking down here. And then look at mobile and look at desktop, right? We have a fundamental shift in where the attention is and where it's going and what we can do with that, right? Because if everybody's flooding online and if everybody's mobile phones and desktop computers is outsurpassing television as the number one place where people spend their time, that is changing how people interact with businesses and what they're doing and where you're going to target these people, right? Now, let's look at Netflix. So Netflix surpasses major cable providers in the US. And this red line is what you can see is the number of Netflix subscribers, with the blue line versus the cable pay TV subscribers in the US, right? And in 2017, we saw Netflix outsurpass traditional cable providers, right? That is just huge, right? So more people, more attention, more eyeballs are on Netflix than they are cable television right now. And this is what that growth looks like. Okay, so the stats that we're looking at is obviously United States, and you might be like, cool, that's a United States summary. Well, look at what's happening in the international paid sector, right? It is just exploding, right? And Netflix hits 149 million paid subscribers, of which 88 million are outside the US, right? More people spending more money on Netflix, looking at this online platform than they are traditional. Now, how does this translate into the business world? Well, Netflix becomes the world's most valuable entertainment company, right? They overtook Walt Disney and they also overtook Comcast, right? That's just a huge monumental day where you've got the biggest entertainment companies in the world being disrupted over the course of less than a decade by these digital platforms coming in and now outsurpassing them in terms of the most valuable company out there. So typically, the way that the old offline model works is that, you'd be running ads offline, or you'd be in the yellow pages, or you'd be doing traditional types of advertising, even television and radio. And what's really happening right now is that we are converging to the new online world where everything is digital, right? Every single marketing activity that you actually do is still digital marketing. And the reason that I say that is because if you're advertising offline, if you're using radio, if you're using television, or if you're using traditional print advertising, what do you think people do when they see those ads? They jump onto Google and they search for you. And all you're really doing is funneling eyeballs from that offline world and you're bringing them to the new online world, right? And that's really what we're seeing. And if we have a look in 2018 at the global advertising expenditure, the internet as a channel is now the single largest advertising channel on planet Earth, outsurpassing all of the other channels, right? And that is really I've been into digital marketing for enough time that when I first began, we were like the redheaded stepchild in the room that no one really paid a huge amount of attention to. And what's happening right now is like, we always got the very small percentage of ad spend. And it was kind of like, oh, that's that cute digital thing. Well, right now, there is only digital. That is the number one big 800-pound gorilla in the room. And everything in terms of how people are spending their money in order to acquire new customers has been pivoted over to online. And, a lot of people, when they think about this and they think about traditionally how business is done and this huge rise of internet marketing, they do get a bit carried away, right? And the reason that I say that they get carried away is because if you look at total retail spending, right? And let's just have a look at like the e-commerce share of retail spending in the following countries, right? Look at the USA here, right? You can see that around 10% of the total spending is done online, right? In China, it's almost touching 25%. The UK, also in the high teens. And sorry, you got South Korea there, which is also, above 20%. Then the UK, as I said, high teens, USA at 10%, Western Europe under 10%, Japan, India, Eastern Europe, Russia, and Brazil, right? So really, like, if you have a look at, like, okay, well, digital and internet is the number one advertising channel, yet only 10% of retail in the States is actually done online, right? And you might be thinking, well, I sell a service Sabri, so we don't even do e-commerce, right? And I'll get to that in just a moment. But what you can see right here is that most of the people are online, but most of the money is not just yet, right? Because people are researching these things. They're researching online and they're looking for products and services online. But in your case, typically they're going to be making an inquiry online, and then that's going to result in someone getting on the telephone or booking in a face-to-face meeting or whatever it might be to actually convert them as a customer. So that's typically what we can see by the stats, is just looking at the overall amount of commerce that's actually done online. And what I mean by this is if you take into consideration the stats that we just looked at, you can see that most countries, around the world only have about less than 10% of total retail spending is happening online. Now, that is changing at a rapid rate, right? And those percentages are going up year on year. But what is happening is people are doing all their research when buying a product service online. And that's the main thing that we're going to be concerned with, because you might be making all of your sales over the phone or face to face. But the way that people are researching and finding solutions to their problems is online. Like you can just see that with the attention and where it's all flowing. And if you look at like the meteoric rise of like Netflix, okay? Now let's kind of take another look at this online convergence and what's really happening here. And this is another example of like digital technology and how it's changing and how it's radically disrupting traditional business. Now, not only is Amazon the largest online retailer in the world, it also wants to disrupt physical retail, right? And they've opened up these shops where there's no lines, there's no checkout. You just basically walk in and pick up what you want and walk out. Seriously, right? So you log in through these gates here, and there's a QR code that you can scan before you walk into the store. And the crazy thing is, right, if you just look at the ceiling in this image, right, and you'll see all those little black squares, and they're all cameras. And there's hundreds and hundreds of cameras on every single aisles, right? And there's like sensors. And basically Amazon knows not only what you did buy, like when you walked in the store, pick it up and then checked out, but they also know what you didn't buy. Why? Right? And what you were really close to buying. And then it can retarget you online. So if you go pick up some yogurt, those sensors and those cameras are watching you. You put it down, and then you start getting retargeted online. They're linking that activity, with that QR code to your Amazon account, and then they can follow you around and retarget you, right? You might be like, holy shit, that's scary, Sabri. This is what's happening. This is what you have to look forward to. This is where we are heading, as like a community, as a whole country, as a whole, civilization of people in this convergence of online, that it's not just like, oh, okay, well, like grocery stores are never going to be disrupted. Wrong. Everything as you know it is going to be disrupted, right? So Amazon knows that what you didn't buy, they know what you're close to buying, they're going to follow you around, and then they can retarget you. And that's just one element. You might be like, cool, that's grocery store, Sabri. Like, I'm not selling yogurts or energy drinks. Like, I'm a consultant, I'm a coach, I'm a service business provider. How is this applicable to me? Like, I don't really understand, how this applies to my business. Well, let me just show you exactly what's happening, right? So what you can see here is, facial recognition using AI technology. And this is something that China, is really at the forefront of, and that they have rolled out. But rather than me just like explaining it to you, let me just show this small clip for you from the Washington Post.
China's pursuing an ambitious plan to create an omnipresent video surveillance network. The Shuiliang, or Sharp Eyes project, aims to extend and integrate video surveillance from cities into villages and from roads into residential compounds. It aims to use artificial intelligence, big data, and deep learning to analyze this mountain of video evidence, to work out who's doing what, where, and when, to track suspects and the people they associate with, and even to predict crime. In November, I visited 3 tech companies in the cities of Beijing and Chongqing to see how China plans to make the communist slogan, "The masses have sharp eyes," into a reality. Here are a few of the ideas that the tech companies showcased. These cameras are looking at a road junction, and they're identifying everything that's passing through. They're looking at cars, reading the number plates, and they're looking at pedestrians, classifying pedestrians according to their age, their gender, what kind of clothes they're wearing, even what kind of hairstyles they have. This software analyzes crowds. It's producing a heat map of where people are massing together, the sort of thing you might use to prevent overcrowding. You can also see that it's also able to track individuals through the crowd. So if you're looking for a suspect, this is the kind of software you might want to use. Here we can see 2 cameras picking faces out of the crowd, comparing those faces to a national database of suspects, of wanted men and women. The police then look at the matches that are flagged and see whether they think that's someone they're looking for. They can then swoop in to potentially arrest or question the person that the cameras have identified. A completely different application now. This camera is trained on the face of a truck driver. It's looking at his facial expressions and what he's doing to see whether he's showing any signs of tiredness. If the score rises above a certain level, then he's seen as too tired to drive. His company will be alerted. They'll give him a call and tell him to take a rest. The Sharp Eyes project has already been rolled out in more than 50 cities. So far, the tech doesn't quite match the ambition, but experts agree that facial recognition is improving fast and is a technology of the future. Concerns are being raised about whether the system will be used in China to unfairly target ethnic minorities or be used as a way to crack down on dissidents and activists. But in the tech startups that I visited, the young elite staff seemed cheerfully unaware of those kind of concerns.
It's not coming, right? It is already here. And that just highlights, just some of the changes that really are coming in the years ahead and that have already been rolled out, right? And have already been integrated without your knowledge. And you might be thinking like, okay, cool, like that's pretty tech, that's pretty crazy. How does it relate to me getting more customers? Great question. So basically, what you can see here is like this is, an ad that I have run, and this is using technology that is facial recognition. And this is something that already Google and Facebook have rolled out, that are already using on their ad platforms to determine what is going on. Now, what you can see here is that it's scanning my face and it's putting emotion to it, very likely in terms of happiness and joy. And then it's bringing up face 2. which is my good old friend Salt Bay here, Nusret, and he's very unlikely that he has those emotions, right? And it has a 93% confidence. It's picked up 2 men. Then it's got, here are 2 men, and this is a confidence level that it's brought up. Now look what it's picking up. Hair, selfie, cool, arm, photography, muscles, smile, glasses, vacation. Web entities, text, it's reading for any text on there, brings up the colors, any properties around this, the ratios, and then it can tell us if it's like, there's adult content or it's spoofy or there's anything. And then look at the code, right? So this is the type of code that it's bringing in, and what it's actually looking at is the different measurements between the right eye to the left eye and the eyebrow, and this is how it's basically determining whether or not that person is smiling or there is joy or any of those kind of stuff, right? And this is something that Facebook basically use, and it's called Deep Face, and it is a deep learning facial recognition system created by Facebook, and it identifies faces using an advanced deep learning neural network. So a neural network is a piece of software that basically simulates a very basic approximation of how real neurons in the brain work. And deep learning is one of the methods of performing machine learning. Basically, what it does is it looks at a huge body of data, for example, human faces, and it tries to develop a high-level abstraction of that human face by looking at reoccurring patterns like their cheeks and the eyebrows and the measurements between them. And in this case, deep face consists of a bunch of neurons that are 9 layers deep. And then it basically uses this learning process to then see and create 120 million connections or synapses between those neurons based on a corpus of 4 million photos of a face, right? So basically what that means is that, you're uploading a picture of yourself to Facebook, then, typically there's multiple photos that you're uploading, they're getting all the different angles and the measurements, and then they're really just forming this AI technology to be able to map out exactly what's going on, right? Now, again, you might be like, cool, Facebook has rolled that out. How's that going to help me, Sabri? How is that going to help me get more customers? Well, I'm going to tell you. So, in my agency, we spend tens of millions of dollars every single year on advertising, right? A lot of paid advertising, a lot of Facebook ads, a lot of Google ads across all different channels. And when you're spending tens of millions of dollars and when you have spent more than $100 million on advertising, you really start to look at what works and what doesn't work. And we're always looking for the edge in my agency, right? Like, how can we get our clients better results? What are some other things that we could be doing to really game the system and get a better output, right? And in order to do that, you need to understand the machine. You need to understand the delivery vehicles that you're putting ads on, and what is it that they want, and what is the AI, and what is the technology and algorithms that they're using to determine what is a good ad, what is a bad ad, what do their users want, right? So as I showed you before, right, with a scan of my face, this is another screenshot using that same platform. And I'll include links, later in this program to use this software so you can go on and have a play around yourself. But as you can see on this image, right, look at the emotions that it's saying. So it's saying joy is very unlikely, sorrow, it's kind of like there's not really any strong polarization with the emotion of this image. And this is an image that we used on one of the ads to promote our agency, right? And now this ad didn't do very, very well, right? And, we obviously split test headlines and body copy and all the different kind of variables in that equation to find out why not. But now we've got another image, right? And then this is just an image of me on my desk at my first office, and you'll see on this one, the emotion that they're saying is it's joy, right? It's possible. And they've got a 71% confidence. And what we noticed is that this ad, in that same test with the same headline, same body copy, it did better. We had a better cost per lead on this ad. Okay, cool. So like there's, we see some correlation between the emotion of joy and a low cost per lead. And we're obviously, constantly split testing ads, rolling out new ads. Then we rolled out this ad, right? And you can see that the image on this one, joy is very likely. So it's not likely, it's very likely. And look at the confidence level, 100%, right? So, this ad outperformed those other two images. And the correlation with this one was the emotion was very likely to be joy. And if you have a look at, what these platforms, specifically Facebook in this example, what their end outcome is, they want the engagement of their users to be meaningful and to be happy, right? So therefore, if we're using images in our ads that help them reach their objective, they reward us with lower cost per leads, right? With higher return on investment. And that's why this stuff matters, right? This is not just some cool stuff that they're rolling out for Amazon or they're rolling out in China. This is already rolled out. And if you're looking to get the edge, and obviously you are because you've invested in this program and you're here to really geometrically grow your business, then this is the stuff that we're going to be diving deep into throughout this program, is like really looking at it and breaking it down beyond levels that you ever thought about or that anybody else thinks about. And this is how we're able to really just go out there and just annihilate the competition by looking at this scientifically and looking at this and breaking it down to its constituent parts and finding out like what are the things that really move the needle. How do we get an edge, right? And this really comes down to that it's clear to see when you look around that there is a shifting of the tectonic plates and that technology is eating the world. And what we're seeing is that we are now living in this new digital economy. And if you don't believe me, or if you think that I'm being sensationalist, or I'm taking a few isolated incidents and I'm blowing them up to be dramatic, that is very far from the case. Let me show you, what is happening on a macro level. If we zoom out and we look across all industries, what is happening? And what you can see here in this clip is that this is a list of the most valuable companies in the world. And just watch this change, right? Look at the top, we've got PetroChina, ExxonMobil, and Walmart and BHP Billiton. Look at these companies, right? Look at what's happening as this video rolls, right? And what you're going to be able to see is that there was like a lot of companies like ExxonMobil, PetroChina, that are companies that are really their whole market cap is really based on minerals and looking at, raw materials and petroleum and oil and all of those things. And now look what's happening. Apple, right? Look at Microsoft. Yeah, you still got PetroChina, and then you got Berkshire Hathaway, Microsoft, General Electric, Johnson & Johnson. Obviously, we're seeing a large domination by the US, Chevron. Just have a look, right? And what you can see here clearly is that the top 4 or 5 companies, and really the top 10 companies, are starting to consolidate in terms of technology. Look at it, it's slowly eating up the most valuable companies in the world. Apple, Google, Microsoft. Look at Facebook on the rise, Amazon. Continue to watch. And it's just, when you see it visually broken down like this, over time, like this is like June 2017. Then we've got Tencent, Alibaba, China enters the fold. Yeah, with their e-commerce plays. And then look at this. Look what you're seeing. You're seeing that 9 out of the 10 are technology companies. And this has only happened in the last 10 years, right? Look at that. Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Google, Berkshire Hathaway, Facebook, Alibaba, Tencent, Johnson & Johnson, and ExxonMobil, right? That's where we ended up from April 2019. There's no other kind of later stats than that right now, but that's what you can see. Like, look at that right in front of your eyes, right? And you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of those top 10, are all technology companies, right? You've only got Berkshire Hathaway, Johnson, Exxon Mobil, really, so out of those 9, so 3 of them. And look at the market capitalization of the Microsofts and the Apples and the Amazon. And this has only gotten more crazy since then. It's only going to continue to get more crazy. Therefore, we must evolve or die. It really is that simple. If you already know that there's this huge convergence online and that technology is really going to be eating up your industry and your category, no matter what the niche is that you operate in, you need to start looking at your service delivery. You need to look at how people are researching your industry or the problems that they're experiencing around the service that you actually deliver, and look at what is going to change, like what is going to be completely disrupted over the next coming years and over the next decade, because it is not the strongest of species that survive, nor the most intelligent, right, that survives. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change. And that's Charles Darwin who said that, right? And it's really, you need to have that. It's not about how effective that you are now or your position that you're in now. It's you need to be open and adaptive and really move with the trends of your market and the shifting of the tectonic plates in order to be in a position of dominance. And if you want to continue to survive as an entity, as a species that is your business, then you're going to need to adopt to these things, and you're going to need to start really getting scientific. You're going to need to start diving into all of the elements that I'm going to be running you throughout this program and mastering these elements. Because what we are seeing is that now, you might be in a position where you're like, cool, Sabri, I'm already out there. I've got a funnel, I'm running webinars, I'm already doing lots of digital marketing, I'm running Facebook ads, Google ads, I've got retargeting, YouTube ads, the whole works, right? And that's really great if you already are doing that, right? And even if you are doing that, what you are going to see now is the rising of the Red Sea of competition, right? And you are going to need to be a master level marketer in order to be able to survive this. Because as I highlighted earlier, right, the internet now is the #1 advertising platform on planet Earth, in terms of where the ad dollars are going. And as all of those ad dollars are getting bought up and everyone's spending all their money in that sector, it's basic economics, supply and demand. The demand for that inventory is going up exponentially, but the supply's not. So what's that going to mean? Well, Google CPC has increased 174% in the last 5 years, right? There's all these businesses that are flooding online to advertise their business because all of the attention has flooded online and people are following that attention, they're following that eyeballs, and now what you're seeing is, okay, the cost per click goes from $1.02. Then it jumps up the next year to $1.55, and then to $2.14, and then to $2.69, and then to $2.80, right? So what you're seeing is that because the cost per click on that channel has risen by 174%, in all the other variables to stay the same, your cost to acquire a lead has just gone up by 174%, and therefore your cost to acquire a customer on that channel has gone up by 174%, right? And that is just eroding your margins. They're just getting chomped away like a sea of ferocious piranhas on your bottom line. And this isn't just Google. Facebook's cost per click has increased by 171% over the last 12 months, right? And what you're seeing there is Facebook is reaching what we call max ad load. This is an article from Recode. Facebook says it's running out of places in the newsfeed to show people ads. Facebook relaunches search ads to offset slowing revenue. Instagram is already running out of room for ads. And that's a threat to Facebook as it looks for new avenues to keep their revenue growing, right? This means if you're already advertising online or want to be, that you need to be a master, because as everyone's flooding online and the rising costs are going up, you need to become extremely efficient and effective with the message that you put out on that platform in order to get one up on your competitors. Because if everyone's on Google and they're all bidding on the same keywords that are driving most of the search traffic in your industry, like, what are you going to do? How are you going to remain, dominant? Or how are you actually going to take a piece of the pie off these much more established competitors? And the way that you do that is by becoming a master and becoming more brutally effective on these platforms than any of your competition. And that is exactly what it is that you're going to be getting inside this program. You are going to be getting a master level understanding of, how to go out there and get customers in today's new digital economy, right? This program, Quantum Growth, is everything that I have learned and perfected through trial and error of spending more than $100 million on paid advertising and way more than that on organic traffic and building out sales funnels and learning copywriting and persuasion and human psychology. And I'm literally packaged up everything from applying it to business, one-on-one, and actually deploying it and building out funnels from scratch and split testing every little nuance and every little element to find out scientifically what works and what doesn't, right? I am not just some armchair guru who's just created some pixie dust course. I have someone who is a practitioner. I have been in the trenches on the front lines of digital marketing, on business growth, on capitalism, really for the last 17 years of my life, getting my teeth kicked in and learning through trial and error and losing millions and millions of dollars in order to actually refine this system that you're going to be getting over the coming weeks, right? And I have really thought about all the different nuances of all the different platforms and persuasion and all the different things that I could possibly hand to you to help you really get that trajectory and to experience that growth that I have experienced, that hundreds and hundreds of my clients have experienced firsthand, but in a much shorter window of time and without any of that trial and error that I had to go through, and giving you something that is as plug and play as possible for you just to go and plug into your business and just watch it just explode and really move you from this old paradigm, this old way of doing business, and helping you experience quantum growth and growing you to a whole new dimension, a whole new paradigm, and help your business reach heights that you didn't even know were possible. That you're going to really be, me pulling back the curtain and showing you what's possible throughout this course and throughout me really mentoring you and showing you the way. But the important things to remember going into this is that this will not be easy. I am going to challenge you and push you to transcend to another level that you didn't even know existed, right? We're going to be covering a broad range of topics and strategies to help you grow as a person and as an entrepreneur. This program is designed to breed a terrorizing species of polymaths that really dominate every market that they operate in. This is the education that you've been searching for your whole life, but have not been able to find. And we're going to be going into, not just the business side, not just, the Facebook ads and the funnels and how to write really compelling webinars and all of that kind of stuff, but I'm going to be really helping you to create a new you. Because if you want a better business, then you need to be better as an individual. Now, wherever you are and however hard that you're working right now, I want you to take it to another level that you didn't even know was possible. I really want to push you to get into that zone where you can shut out all the noise and negativity and the fear and the distraction and lies and just achieve all that you want to in whatever it is that you do. I want you to really light a fire inside yourself so big and so ablaze that nobody can deny you, right? In business and in life, there are a multitude of factors that are outside of your control, like how well funded your competitors are, or the size and the experience of their team, or how much money that they've got to spend on marketing, or when they got started in business, or their joint venture partners. All of this is outside of your control. The thing that is within your control is how hard you work. Now, in anything that you do, it takes no talent, it takes no luck or any other resources to work hard, right? You just have to be willing to put in the work and actually do it and execute every single day. There are no excuses, and it's no one else's fault. It's all on you. Right? So you must get completely focused on taking full ownership and responsibility for every bit of success and every bit of failure that comes your way, right? You decide to basically get the job done and what it's going to take to get the job done, and then do whatever is necessary to make it happen. When you make a mistake, do not look for excuses. Do not blame other people. Do not blame the course. Just own it 100%. Because I've used these strategies in this course to help generate over $1.33 billion in revenue in over 416 different niches and industries that I've deployed them in. So this stuff is incredibly powerful and it works, but it only works if you work. Right? So from this point on, there will be no complaining, there will be no bitching, there will be no moaning, and there will be no negativity, right? None of that stuff is going to be tolerated inside this community of hungry winners, right? The only thing that's going to be tolerated is taking violent action towards your goals, because we've got this Facebook community that's going to be attached to this. And, you know, there are so many people in life that just look for excuses. They look to blame something that's outside of their power. They look to blame their competitors and all that kind of stuff, right? But the one thing that is common is that winners always find a way. And I'm giving you my way that I know works without a shadow of a doubt, because I've personally deployed it for hundreds of clients in over 416 different industries and niches. So if you do the work and you execute, then you will get phenomenal output from this. And the other thing that I want to highlight is that complexity is the enemy of execution. So throughout this course, you will see that I try to boil down complex things into simple and actionable steps for you. And that is because complexity is the enemy of execution. And it's not about having the most complex sales funnel in the world with thousands and thousands and hundreds of different contingency campaigns and rules and if not boxes. That shit is stupid. And only broke people obsess over those things, because I've seen simple two-step funnels go out there and take people from doing, 400 grand to doing 3 million in a year, or from people that are doing 3 million and blowing them up to 25 million in 18 months, right? So only broke people obsess over the technology and all the little nuances and the brand new little tools and hacks that you can get. Now, we're going to be locked onto our goals and our targets with a Terminator gaze, and we'll be applying the most powerful and razor-sharp strategies and tactics to help you grow your business over the coming weeks, right? So I'm all about getting you the result. And really what this program is me synthesizing down all of that knowledge and all those learnings into the wisdom so you can get the result in the quickest, shortest amount of time possible with the least amount of heartache, right? And I am incredibly excited to have you here, and I am looking forward to really hearing about your transformation and me being able to help you kind of ascend and up level to that new paradigm for yourself and help you just blow up your business. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.